Okay, today we're going to solve multi-step equations, but we're also going to write the properties that we use to solve those equations as reasons, kind of like in a proof. And this is the examples that I found on the state study guide, on the state Algebra 1 Milestones study guide. Okay, this is the original equation. 4 parentheses r plus 15 close parentheses plus 4r equals 300. And that's just the original equation. All right, the next step that they do is they multiply these. 4 times r give 4r, 4 times 15 get 60. So what they write over here is multiply 4 by r plus 15. They used to write the word distributive property of equality. And so this example I found from 2020. But what you're doing, and it's been revised. So they're not having them write distributive property anymore. So some of my examples may have distributive, but they're just writing down what they did. Multiply 4 by r plus 15. Now, I did notice that in their examples of questions, they have the word distributive property. So just realize they aren't consistent about what they say here. All right. The next step is that you combine 4r with 4r, which is 8r plus 60, which is combining like terms. Okay. Once you do that, now they don't show subtracting 60 from both sides like I do in a problem. I show you that. So don't look at that part. Look at the final result, which is 8r equals 240. So you subtracted 60 from both sides, which is the subtraction property of equality. And then we're going to divide each side by 8, division property of equality. Okay. And notice here, they're using those words. So like I said, this is one example from the state. I honestly took it straight from there. And this is the other one. And they are using subtraction property of equality and division property of equality. And here, they did not. They said multiply by, divide by, and subtract from. All right, so here we're writing the original equation. We're going through this here. They're going to move the 6 from this side to this side. That's the subtraction property of equality, when you subtract the same thing from one side to the other. Then combining like terms on each side, they get ax, 8 equals ax. That's combining like terms. Then when they divided by a on both sides, that gave them the division property of equality, and then they simplified it. All right, so let's move to my examples. All right, here is example number 1. In order, you start with your original equation. The first step is you add 3 to both sides. The answer you get from that is 7, okay? So I added 3 to both sides, so I write down what I did at the result. So when I combine all that, I get negative x over 6 equals 7. That's the addition property of equality. All right, the next thing that you do is multiply through by 6. Again, we usually show these things where the multiplication is at, but the result is where you write your reason. So this is the multiplication property of equality. Then we divide through by negative 1 on both sides, and that's the division property of equality. So you're basically writing out what it is you've been doing all this time. Y'all will say divide by, multiply by, add, subtract. Just tack on property of equality, and you'll be all right. All right. Here's our original equation. Our original equation needs 5x and 2x added together. And the state used to use commutative property of addition. So that's what I used. So, but the state has changed its tune. And so we are combining like terms, which is what we used to call it all the time. Okay. Now, to go from this to this step, you're going to add 15 to both sides. So when you add 15 to both sides, that is the addition property of equality that gives you this step. Then from this step to this step, you are dividing by 7. So that's the division property of equality. The state used to have in their standards a step where if you had to flip it around, that was called symmetric, where you just flip things around. I don't think that in 2020 that's going to even creep up in our problems. So we'll not worry about that one. All right, this is the original equation. 5x plus, all right, you distribute, and I do know by looking at their problems that they have for us to solve, not in their examples they use, but in the problems, the questions, they did use distributive property of multiplication over addition. I think distributive property is probably going to be enough this year. And if it's multiple choice, you'll be sure to find it. Anyway, so now we've distributed. After that, we combine like terms. They used to use these words. We're not going to do that anymore. We're combining like terms. 5x plus 3x is combine like terms. All right? 5x plus 3x is 8x. Then you're going to take and subtract 12 from both sides. So when I subtract 12 from both sides, that's the subtraction property of equality. And then I'm going to divide by 8, and that's the division property of equality. All right, here, this is the original equation. We would say here, combine like terms. Because you're combining x and x on this side. All right, then you add 0.5 to both sides, which is the addition property of equality. Then we divide by 2, division property of equality. Okay, that's it. Thank you.